Dear students, welcome to our class. In our previous class, we discussed about the wider meaning of education, the bipolar process of education that was given by Sir John Adams in his famous book Evaluation of Educational Theory. And we also discussed about tripolar process of education, which was given by John Dewey. Today, we are going to discuss about the types of education. Here you can see types of education. So, the different types of education. There are three different types of education. The first one is formal education, then informal education, and the last one is non-formal education. So you have to remember what are the different types of education. There are three different types of education: formal education, informal education, and non-formal education. Now I am going to discuss the details of these three types of education. Details of all these three types of education. At first I am discuss the formal education. What is formal education and vice versa. Okay. Now we discuss about formal education. So formal education is the well-planned and well-managed form of education given within the boundary of schools, colleges and the universities within a certain time duration according to the particular syllabus, examination system, rules and regulations and administration keeping in view particular aim. So formal education is what that which are given in our four walls of a school institution. Okay, formal education is provided in a school, colleges and universities. It has also particular time, particular admission procedure and administration system, and it is also particular examination systems and rule and regulation. So formal education is like the narrow meaning of education. Okay, in this form, teacher teaches the students and learn from this students learn from them. Okay, so as like narrow meaning of education, for in the formal education, teacher teaches the students and students learn from the teachers. So this is formal education. In the formal education, there are various stages. Okay, so now I am going to discuss about the different stages of formal education. Because formal education is given within the four walls of a school institution, therefore there are various stages of formal education. And the first stage is pre-primary. Okay, the first stage of formal education is pre-primary education. Pre-primary education is given within the age group of children 2 to 3 years to 5 to 6 years. Okay, 2 to 3 years to 5 to 6 years. Formal education is given to the age group of children between 2 to 3 years to 5 to 6 years. Then the next stage is primary education. Primary education, always remember primary education starts at the age of 6 of the child. Okay, at the age of 6 or 6 years, primary education starts and it ends at 11 or 12 years. Okay, it may be ends at 11 years or it may be 12 years. Again, primary education has another two parts. Primary education has another two parts. Lower primary, we usually call it LP level, so lower primary, and another is upper primary. Upper primary, that is UP level. Then the third stage is secondary education. Okay, the third stage is secondary education. Secondary education is imparted to the children of age group of 12 or 13 years to 12 or 13 years. It starts at 12 or 13 years and it continues to the age group of 16 to 17 years. 16 to 17 years it ends at secondary education. Okay, secondary education ends at 16 to 17 years. Again, secondary education are divided into two parts: high secondary and higher secondary. Secondary education also has two parts, that is high secondary and higher secondary education. Then the last stage of education, that is number 4, higher education. That is higher education, and higher education starts at age of 17 or 18 and it continues to the 22 to 23 years. Higher education has also two parts, that is bachelor's and master's levels. Higher education has also two parts, that is bachelor levels and master's level. Bachelor levels, that is TDC level or degree level we can say it, and another is master degree level, MA, MSc, MCom, whatever, that is master level. So these are the 4 stages of formal education. Okay, you have to remember all these 4 stages of education. Then now we discuss about various characteristics of formal education. These characteristics are very easy to remember. So the first one is formal education has a particular aim, we know it. The next one is formal education has a predetermined time period. Always remember, formal education has a definite time period. Here we can see that primary education starts at 2 to 3 years, that is a definite time level. Then secondary education starts at 12 or 13 years, that means a definite time level. So formal education has a predetermined time period. Then next, it has predetermined syllabus and the teacher stays after preparing the educational plan. Okay, formal education has always a syllabus and teacher imparts the knowledge to the students. So, the next, it is managed by particular rules and regulations. Formal education is predetermined and well constructed. It is limited to certain age limit, and in this form individual independence is limited. So in the formal education you have to remember individual independence is limited, and formal education is controlled and managed by administration, and it produces the degree, diploma and certificate. So after the completing of formal education, it provided degree, diploma and certificates. So these are the characteristics of formal education. Then next, here is given objectives of formal education. Why formal education is provided? This is known as objectives of formal education. There are some of the objectives of it: preserves cultural tradition, knowledge, skills, and transform those to the future generation. So it preserves our culture and traditions, formal education. Then to develop the child or the develop the knowledge of the child or the person. Okay, formal education try to develop the knowledge of the child or children. Then it provides for the development of the creative talent, for the development of preserved culture of the society. So formal education try to cultivate all the talent or capacities of the students. Then it provide for all-round and multi-purpose development. Then to provide a formal of habit, attitudes, behaviors, good ideology, and to a good moral character. So to provide a good moral character, good habit in the students. So these are the objectives of formal education. So mainly you have to remember what is formal education, the different stages of formal education, and the characteristics of formal education. It is very much important for you. So we briefly know about formal education. Okay. So now I want to discuss with you the informal education. Okay, informal education, just the opposite of formal education. So the informal education is the knowledge gained by indirectly or outside the boundary of education institution during any phase of time in various environments during lifetime. So just like the wider meaning of education, informal education is the same. Informal education we gain through our whole life. In any moment of our life we can gain the informal education, in any person, in any institution, in the magazines, from the nets or from the internet, in the various sources. From the various sources we gain the informal education. So here the characteristics of informal education is: in informal education, a child or a person able to learn the customs, rituals, proper order, moral values in any environment. In any environment we can gain the customs, rituals and rule regulation of our society, not from only the education institution. The next is informal education is governed by any given hard and fast rules and regulations or administration. So informal education is not governed by hard and fast rules and regulations. Okay, there is no rules and regulation in informal education. Informal education is not well constructed and well planned, and in informal education there is no time limit, there is no age limit. We can gain informal education throughout our life. Then there is no predetermined syllabus, just opposite the formal education. You have to remember, just opposite of formal education. And then through informal education does not provide any degree, diploma or certificate, and informal education is not socially recognized. Formal education is socially recognized and informal education is not socially recognized. So these are the characteristics of informal education. The informal education is not imparted by the teachers. There is no syllabus, there is no age limit, there is no time limit, there is not given any degree, diploma and certificate. Informal education is not well planned or well organized, etc. So we briefly discuss about the formal education and informal education. So the last types of education is non-formal education. For today we discuss only the formal education and non-formal education, informal education. Non-formal education will be discussed in our next class. Okay, thank you.